Our NBA free agency coverage continues here on Philadelphia 76ers Now. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, we're going to recap all of the moves that Daryl Morey in Philadelphia has made so far as part of our 76ers free agent tracker. And we're also going to take a look at the top free agents available with some thoughts on some players that Philadelphia should sign to fill out some of the remaining holes on this roster. As for what Philadelphia has done so far, the Sixers have probably been the most active team in free agency up to this point. They got things started with the first external signing in free agency by bringing back Andre Drummond on a 2-year, $10 million deal. Joel Embiid needs a quality backup behind him. The plus-minus has been awful when he's off the floor or hurt, and Andre Drummond, one of the best rebounding bigs in the entire NBA. And we saw a couple of years ago, before he was included in that Ben Simmons-James Harden trade, how valuable he was as a backup big to Joel Embiid. Eric Gordon also signing with Philadelphia on a 1-year, $3.3 million deal. And you notice that these first two contracts, very affordable depth pieces for the Sixers here. That paramount when you consider what they've done elsewhere. Kelly Oubre, decent bag, $8 million plus per year. Paul George on that max, and then Tyrese Maxey on the max. And for Eric Gordon, a lot of familiarity with Daryl Morey. This is a player who can still shoot the three really well, so he signs on the vet min. Kelly Oubre back on that 2-year deal. You get some wing ability there. He really embraced his role under head coach Nick Nurse. Sixers making the biggest splash so far free agency, getting probably the best unrestricted free agent in the NBA in Paul George. And then on Monday morning, inking Tyrese Maxey to that max deal. Let's go in further detail on these players here. First, the first move that Philadelphia made in signing Andre Drummond. This is not a hyperbolic statement. Since Andre Drummond came into the league when he was drafted by the Detroit Pistons out of UConn, he has been one of the best rebounding bigs in this generation of the NBA. Some of the numbers that he has put up in rebounding the basketball, astronomical. Just has a knack and has instincts for making plays on the glass. He's big, he's physical, he's tough. He's a big body who's not going to get out-muscled. He has a relentless pursuit for the basketball, and this is one of the best backup centers in the entire NBA. So to get a player who's so valuable for the reasons that I mentioned, but also given the health concerns for Joel Embiid, to give him $5 million per year, that is an excellent deal for Philadelphia. According to reports, that second year could be a player option for Andre Drummond. Next up, Eric Gordon. This is a vet min deal for Philadelphia. And I get it. You signed Paul George, and he is 34 years old. And you signed Eric Gordon, who's also been in the league for a minute. He's going to be 36 years old in December. But what is Eric Gordon going to give Philadelphia? A player coming in off the bench for extremely cheap, who has familiarity with Daryl Morey, who can be utilized as a shooter with range, who throughout his entire NBA career has had a consistent track record of knocking down three-point shots. Last year for Phoenix, he got some decent run. He was playing nearly 28 minutes per night. I'm curious to see if he plays that much for Philadelphia. And on nearly 6 3-point attempts per game, he knocked down nearly 38% of those shots. And when you're paying a veteran player who can serve as a valuable piece, who has played in a lot of big games and has been in the league for a minute, you're only giving him $3.3 million. That's a great vet min deal on the periphery of the Sixers roster. Then the Sixers bring back Kelly Oubre. And I thought that Oubre, after signing for the vet min last year, very late in the process, in the lead up to the season, was excellent value then. And then he played very well for the Sixers, embraced his role under Nick Nurse, tapped into his potential as an athletic wing defender, and he played very well. 15 points per game, 5 rebounds. The three-point shot is always a little bit up and down, but there were some nights in which he was pivotal on the offensive end to the Sixers' success in knocking down threes. But I like his ability, too, to create off the bounce. In that dunker spot, he can serve as a little bit of a lob threat. This is a two-way player who's still young and athletic at an important wing position, who might start at the 2 spot for the Sixers here with Paul George at the 3, and you get him for about the market for a wing player in the NBA right now. $8+ million per year. That second year, also a player option. Continuity and fit is important. Daryl Morey, Nick Nurse, Joel Embiid, they've talked about that, so you continue that continuity with Oubre staying around. The big ticket free agent signing. The Sixers have been having their eyes on Paul George. He was the apple of their eye. That was the player that they wanted. Daryl Morey said right after the year, after getting bounced by the New York Knicks in the first round, we want a wing who can defend, score, and hit the three. That is what Paul George brings to the table. And this is a move that makes you a better basketball team. This is a huge upgrade when you are going from Tobias Harris to Paul George. Offensively, of course, and defensively. Paul George has a lot more to his offensive bag. He can score at all three levels. He can create off the bounce. He can hit an array of very difficult shots. Tobias Harris, not really that type of guy on the offensive end, and doesn't have the agility and the stop-start ability and the maneuverability and the ability to be malleable. He just wasn't a good fit for Philadelphia. Paul George is a really good fit. He shot 41.3% from three last year on nearly 8 attempts per night. That was second among 21 players who attempted 7+ threes. The Sixers now have the highest scoring trio in the NBA based on last year. Embiid at 34.7 points per game, Tyrese Maxey at 25.9, Paul George at 22.6. That combines to be 83.2. No other team really comes close. And then Paul George averaged 1.03 points per possession in isolation situations last year. 10th best among the 26 players who got 3+ isolation possessions per game. He remains one of the best ISO scorers in the NBA. And he is older, but I wouldn't say he's declining. You know, Paul George in 2020, 2021, 23.3 points per game, 41% from three, a 56% effective field goal rate. This past year, 22.6 points per game, 41% from three, and 57% on the effective field goal percentage. So he's kind of maintained those numbers. You obviously hope that he can stay healthy. And if him and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey can stay healthy, this is going to be a very fun big three to watch. And then we knew that this was going to come at some point. It was just a matter of when. Tyrese Maxey signing that max contract extension with Philadelphia. If there's any player that has earned it, it's Maxey. But the way that he's been able to improve, what he means to this organization culturally, it is a 5-year, $204 million extension for Maxey. Every year that he's been in the NBA, he's gotten better and better and better and better, progressing, developing, to the point where last year he became an all-star, 3-level scorer, good distributor, the primary ball handler for this team, and a menace to guard on the offensive end of the floor. And I actually think he's a decent defender, given the lack of size. What say you? Best move the 76ers have made so far? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Sound off with what you think. We always love chopping it up with our 76ers Now family. As for the top NBA free agents left, keep in mind this list very, very fluid as we record this live on Monday afternoon. All expectations are that LeBron is going to return to the Los Angeles Lakers. Will he take a discounted deal? We will certainly see on that front. But after the Lakers signed his podcast partner, JJ Redick, I imagine LeBron is going to stick around in Los Angeles, and they drafted his son in Bronny James. Why would he decide to leave? There's a lot of chatter that DeMar DeRozan, after a couple of years in Chicago, in which he put up really good numbers, is not going to return to the Chicago Bulls. Any team that signs him, they get an elite scorer who can score at the end of games. He's not going to shoot or take many threes, but the mid-range, him getting to the cup, he's still silky smooth. Klay Thompson, as of right now, has agreed to a deal to get sent to the Dallas Mavericks as part of a sign-and trade in which Josh Green is going to be traded to the Charlotte Hornets. If this deal is completed, and it's not yet as of this recording, there's still a lot to work through on the Golden State angle of this, he'll get 3 years and $50 million from Dallas. So the Mavs get Klay, the Warriors will see what they get, the Hornets get Josh Green, and for Dallas, what a fit Klay Thompson is. He's going to get a ton of threes playing alongside Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. He's won 4 titles. He'll have a chance at a 5th. I also like what Dallas did in signing Najee Marshall, who's a very, very good wing defender. And the Mavs struggled a little bit against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now you have 2 players who can defend the wing spot in Najee Marshall and Klay Thompson. If you're looking for a backup point guard, Tyus Jones, very, very solid player. I just think he's going to be out of the price range for Philadelphia. Caleb Martin, an interesting developmental story for the Miami Heat, but I think he's going to be out of the price range for the Sixers here. And you also seem to be pretty solid at the wing. You also invested a lot of money in that wing spot. Gary Trent Jr., I think, would be an interesting fit for Philadelphia, depending on how they wanted to configure that starting 5 and what they think about Kelly Oubre. Is he a bench player or is he a starter at that 2? Gary Trent could play the 2. He could play the 3. I know that Daryl Morey said after the year that Buddy Hield did not fit in as well as we thought he would, but as a shooter coming in off the bench, if he comes at an affordable rate, you could certainly do worse, and the Sixers are in need of maybe another shooter, even though they signed Eric Gordon. Saddiq Bey, coming off a torn ACL, a legendary Villanova Wildcat. The injury makes that a little bit of a concern, but when he's right, he can defend at a high level, and there's been flashes of really solid play for him. Malik Beasley, another 3-point shooter, long veteran who's been in the league for a long time. For a team that needs a 3-point shooter, he could certainly fulfill that area. Miles Bridges. A lot of Sixers fans really like Miles Bridges. I just don't think it's a great fit, and I also think he could go somewhere where he can get $20+ million per year. The vacant hole in the 76ers lineup right now is the 4. I would have loved to have seen Nick Batum come back, but he's agreeing to a deal, little more than $5 million per year over the next 2 years to return to the Los Angeles Clippers. So what do the Sixers do at that 4 spot? Do you target a player like Precious Achiuwa, who is still in his early to mid-20s? I'm not sure he'd be a great fit alongside Embiid. He can shoot the corner 3 at least a little bit, but I think the Sixers want more of a shooter at that 4 spot. Gordon Hayward, been in the league for a minute. He barely played with the Oklahoma City Thunder after that NBA trade deadline trade. The injuries really concern me. Mo Wagner, Sixers are fine with the backup center spot, Adem Bona and Andre Drummond, so you don't go that route. But Dario Saric as the 4, that I think would be a perfect move for the Sixers to bring him back, a floor spacer who can create a little bit off the dribble, who is iron tough and has played in a ton of big games, both in the NBA playoffs and internationally. Haywood Highsmith, I'm always a fan of Miami Heat players because they always have no fear. Taurean Prince could be a decent player at that 4 spot for the Sixers, but do you want him to be your starter? That's the problem with Philadelphia and where they're at right now financially, because they're a little bit cash-strapped and they have to get creative with how to round out this roster. Chip, among these free agents, some of the other free agents available, what are some players, what are some fits that kind of come to mind for you and players who the Sixers could target here?
So you need a starting forward. That's number 1 priority. I will say, this is just coming in now as breaking news. Melton and officially signing with the Golden State Warriors. So does that open up another need for you now at that guard position where before we were just looking at forwards and there wasn't much left because Nick Batum obviously went back to the Clippers and you wanted Najee Marshall, but he went to the Mavericks. Like these options were just filling up very quickly. So I wouldn't mind a Caleb Martin. I think he could run the 4. Between him, Oubre, Paul George, I think you have enough size to go 2 through 4, and you'd be okay there. Taurean Prince is fine. Like that'd be a cool option. Precious Achiuwa, I'm not as high on. So I think if you want to fill that forward spot, you might have to go trade market. But when it comes down to some of the other free agents here, I would love a Saddiq Bey if he's healthy. If he's not, I don't know about that. Keep your eye on Malik Beasley. I think Malik Beasley could be a good 3-point shooter to have off the bench. You could kind of run like him and Jared McCain 1 and 2 off the bench behind Oubre and Maxey. But, Sixers again, kind of cash strapped at this point. Don't have too much money left to spend, so it's going to be a lot of minimum deals. Maybe they bring back Buddy Hield because they have his bird rights, but DeAnthony Melton now will not be a player that they're bringing back.
Yeah, and I believe the Warriors using the MLE on
Yep.
DeAnthony Melton there for that $12.8 million. And if the back holds up and he doesn't need to undergo a surgery, we saw what he was able to do with the Sixers when right. Defends at a very high level. He can shoot the three. He's a very, very good player for a playoff level team. He will not be returning to the Philadelphia 76ers. So Oubre back, but Batum, DeAnthony Melton going elsewhere. Batum to the Clippers, Melton to the Golden State Warriors. Let's round out this segment with this. Who do you want the 76ers to sign? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.